Well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal. I am also the host of the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. So today, we're going to be talking about several different things. We're going to get back into Bigfoot, because that's what everybody seems to like to talk about. We've had some amazing guests on, and I want to thank all those people for coming on and talking about, aliens and ghosts and their activity that they've experienced and stuff like that at the locations they've been to. But I really want to get back into Bigfoot because that's something I really enjoy and stuff like that. I live with ghosts, so I don't, I experience ghosts almost daily. So anyways, and paranormal activity. So we're going to talk about Bigfooting in general. A lot of, kind of the way I approach Bigfooting when I go out. I know a lot of people do things a lot of different ways, and I've seen a lot of people just, basically take off into the forest, go looking for Bigfoot, and never have any experiences. And I want to talk about the way I kind of do Bigfoot research and how I take a little bit different approach, and a lot of people don't really like it, but it drives Amanda crazy because she just wants to go. But we're going to talk about some upcoming Bigfoot research locations, and then we're going to talk about what happened with the Fort Worth monster investigation, what happened with my ankle, and we'll talk about the stealthy creatures that are out there that may or may not be a Bigfoot or an alien, or who knows what they are. We'll get into that in a second here. So, all right, so let's talk about Bigfooting in general. When I head out to the forest, what I do is I essentially, I tell everybody, slow down. Essentially, slow down and take your time. Basically, when I get out of the vehicle, I don't want to go racing into the forest, unless we're basically having to hike into an area. So and a lot of the time that happens. You have to go walk into an area a mile in, 2 miles in. Sometimes it's, a couple of feet. Sometimes it's 30, 40 feet, stuff like that. But what I do differently, and I always tell everybody, you got to slow down. Bear with me. My lighting has changed. There we go. Now you guys can see me. So, and again, this drives Amanda crazy. And I tell everybody this. When you get out of the vehicle, slow down. Slow down. Take a breath. Take your time. I have the ghost hunting analogy that I always tell everybody. And if I was to come into your living room and you didn't know who I was and I'd never been there before, and I start asking you all these questions and whatever else and rambling on, and you're like, who is this guy? What does he want? Why is he in my living room? And you're dead, of course. You're a ghost, and I know we have skeptics and stuff like that on this channel, non-believers, but it's the same thing with Bigfoot. When I get out of the vehicle, I want to take a slow approach. And here's why. Let me explain to you this. So let's say I'm going to put you in this situation. I pull up to your driveway or your apartment or wherever you live. I pull up, right? And I'm walking up either the front pathway, I'm stepping off onto your lawn or onto your driveway or whatever, and I'm approaching your door. And you're going, okay, I'm not expecting anybody. Is this a delivery guy? Do I have something being delivered? Is there something else going on that I didn't remember was happening? Did I have an appointment? Is this a neighbor? Who is this guy? And I'm walking up to the door, and I'm walking extremely aggressively. I'm walking quickly. And I'm walking up there, and I'm banging on your door, or ringing your doorbell, and I'm standing there nervously kind of leaning back and forth, waiting for you to come to the door. You're going to go, hold on here, what is going on here? You might be looking out the front window, or you might be looking out the window and the door, or you might be looking at your little looking glass. And at that point, you're like, okay, I'm not answering the door, I don't know who this is, I think I locked the front door, right? And you might kind of go back into a room in the back, maybe into a bedroom, or into your living room and be like, nope, not answering that. How is that different with Bigfoot? Imagine they have a territory, if you will, and I do believe that they migrate, so they may not be in this territory at all times, but they are creatures that have habit in my experience. They follow the same. They go through the same areas. They go through, and they like to have their areas like we do. You know, if I go and I set up a room or whatever, I'm going to frequent that area. You know, that's an area. Maybe it's a hunting location. Maybe it's a place I know I can get water. Maybe it's a place I can get in and cool off. Maybe it's like a lake or a river or something. Maybe I can find a food source there. Maybe it's a place there's wild berries, or maybe I can eat some of the tree leaves, or I can eat something from that area. But going back to the analogy, so I come walking into the forest. You know, and again, this is, pretend like this is your house, your lawn, your front area, or you're walking down your hallway of your apartment, and you're looking like, who is this guy? You're standing out there, and I come up and bang on the door. It's kind of similar with Bigfoot. If I have a very aggressive mannerism, you're going to react like, okay, you're going to be scared, or you're going to act aggressively to protect yourself, or you're going to basically run and hide. You're going to make sure that door's locked, maybe put something in front of the door, right? So let's just say there is a Bigfoot in that area. Number one, you're probably walking past evidence, maybe footprints, maybe there's some tree structures or tree bends or some blinds. Maybe there's a tree knock. Maybe there's a scream. Maybe there's a whoop. Maybe there's some kind of other noise, some kind of bird noise or something, but it doesn't sound right to you. And you're going, okay, what the heck? Well, that just could be them basically saying, hey, there's somebody coming. I believe that Bigfoots, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, live in family groups. And so the young ones are usually out there watching to make sure that, the juveniles, the shorter ones, the 6 to 14 footers or 10 footers or whatever you want to say, they're out there watching to make sure if somebody comes walking into the middle of them hunting, or maybe they're bedding down for the night, or maybe they're just getting up, or maybe they're eating, or maybe they're just relaxing, maybe they're trying to plan a hunt. Who knows what they do? That basically they can alert the others, right? They don't want somebody just walking in randomly and seeing them. They're speaking of somebody walking up to my door. So I'm in the front room. I can see out the window. Anyways, essentially that's kind of how Bigfoot reacts too. They see exactly what I was just talking about. Somebody walked up to my door and they're walking quickly. I looked to see what was going on. Now I'm watching them walk away. Okay, I feel better because I know the threat is over. He's leaving, right? So that put me on guard. So imagine the Bigfoot. Anyways, so yeah, when I got out of the vehicle, I tell people, and it, like I said, it drives them crazy. I think I've said this 3 or 4 times. Slow down. Calm your posture. Take your time. Get your gear. Because if I'm throwing a gun over my shoulder, or I'm looking aggressive, I'm packing a knife, or I'm putting my weapon in my holster or whatever, it could possibly alert them to, hey, that's dangerous, right? If they know what those things are, or they've seen them hunters out doing what they do, and it could also spark an aggression out of them. So if I go walking, at this point, I'm probably not a threat if I'm out away from where they're at. But when I start walking quickly towards them, they're, and I'm saying this in a way that, they're actually there. So take this with a grain of salt. I know a lot of people on here are skeptical or on the fence or non-believers. And I know we have believers and knowers and everything else too. But this channel, we kind of try and stay in the middle for everybody. Okay, this is not a one side or the other. We like to have we walk the middle line, if you will. I look at it both ways. I look at a skeptical way, and I look at it in a believer way. So a lot of this is based off my experiences too. I've had a lot of experiences with these things. I've had numerous encounters. I mean, like 40, 50 encounters or more in my lifetime that I know of. So you go walking down there with a weapon or whatever, and now all of a sudden these things are watching you going, what's going on here? What's this guy's intent? And he's walking quickly. Now I'm on edge. Now I'm thinking, okay, I might have to protect myself. I'm going to hide. I'm not going to show myself. I'm not going to make my presence known. All that stuff. It's all kind of points to signs of aggression, right? But if I slow down, I grab my backpack, and I've already secured whatever I'm taking into the forest, on my side or whatever, hidden it in a pocket or making sure that it's not seen. And I'm kind of stopping and looking around. And if it's an area, again, there's areas where you have to actually walk into the forest before you can start looking around. But if I'm walking slowly, taking my time, keep my head up, letting my five senses go, I'm looking, I'm listening, I'm hearing, I'm smelling, I'm feeling, I'm doing all those things. I'm trying to let my senses kind of just relax and kind of just start to focus in on what's going on around me. Because a lot of people miss things. You might not hear that distant tree knock. You might not hear that distant scream. You might not hear that weird bird sound. You might not hear something walking away. You might miss those footprints. You might miss that tree structure. You might miss that blind. You might miss those twigs where you might be walking down the path and go, wait, you just missed that hair sample. You gotta slow down. You gotta take your time, kind of look around. Now, I don't mean like you stop every 2 seconds and look around, but as you're walking down, walk slow. Take your time, walk into that area, and really kind of absorb it. Really take your time and really kind of pay attention to what's going on around you. Let your senses kind of open up. The forest is completely different than, in the city. When you're walking through the city, yeah, you're walking faster, you have an intent to get somewhere, you're doing whatever. And a lot of people have that mindset. When they get somewhere, they would just want to get to where they're going. In the forest, you got to slow down. Because what happens when you see a deer or an animal or snake or whatever? What do? What's the first thing they do when you see them? Usually they stop in shock, and they're like, you just see them go, oh, they get alert. They're like, oh, okay, danger, and they'll run, right? But if you're going slow and you kind of stop and just let them calm down and let them kind of observe you a little bit, they'll kind of calm down sometimes. They'll kind of just sit there and look at you, go, okay, well, he's just there. And then you can kind of watch and see what they do. Maybe they'll walk off. Maybe they won't run. They'll walk. And you can hear them walking away and then, whatever. But you got to remember that the deer and other things are their prey. And so if you find deer in an area or you find tracks of deers, then you might have good location. You also have to find maybe a water source or a water source nearby. Of course, old reports help, or new reports as well. Sightings help as well. Speaking of sightings and reports, if you guys, feel free to comment down below. I know we don't get a lot of comments, but if you've had a Bigfoot sighting somewhere, you've had, you found footprints, you've heard something you just can't explain, and it doesn't have to be just Bigfoot. It could be any paranormal subject. Feel free to comment down below. You have a story you want to share? We've had a lot of viewers now, or listeners on to our podcast recently, and we really love hearing your stories. This is what this channel is about. It's basically about people getting to share their stories. It started out with me sharing my stories, but we really want to give you guys the opportunity to come out and tell your stories. If you have 3 or 4 good ghost stories or whatever, we'd love to hear them, and we'd love to talk to you about them and have you share your experiences. Also, we have a lot of new viewers, a lot of new listeners from all over the place. We're constantly getting new notifications that we're on these podcasts from other countries, which just blows my mind, to be honest with you. I've never thought that when we started, we would be getting listeners from Germany, England, Saudi Arabia, China, Japan, Russia, Taiwan, Ireland, and all these countries in between, Paris, it's just crazy. And all, of course, across the United States, South America, North America. I had no idea that would ever happen. Also, YouTube is now going to be translating into other languages automatically. So if you're listening from another country and you've never been able to kind of listen, on our audio podcast, it doesn't translate for you. You can go over to our YouTube channel, and the podcast should translate into your language, which I'm real super excited about. So that gives us an opportunity to get more listeners as well. So if you haven't already, please give us a subscribe, a like, and a follow. Hit that notification bell. It really helps us to continue to grow our channel. I know that we're being held back for some reason. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the alien stuff we always talk about. They don't like so much. Seems like those videos always get held back a lot. So, anyways, okay. So let's keep going. Upcoming locations. So we're going to kind of go back to some of our locations that we've shot before. And the reason being, the technology we had at that point, the cameras we had at that point, just weren't sufficient to really document what we were experiencing. We've upgraded, we're always upgrading gear. But now we've got some other cool stuff. We've got a blind. We've got a deer, basically a deer decoy that we can use. And then we've got a camera now that has the ability to see in complete darkness, which we've never had before. And if you've ever been to the forest here in Texas and you get out of these towns, it's freaking pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. I don't know how many times I tripped and whatever else at Joe's camp because I couldn't see where I was going. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. God, if I had the camera I had now back in the day, we would have documented so many more Bigfoots. I mean, we could have caught them on camera so much easier. And now, because we're always constantly talking to different people and meeting new people, and we actually have talked to several people that work on shows and stuff like that, the Bigfoot shows and other shows. We were when we ran the California Ghost Hunters, we had a lot of connections up in Hollywood and stuff, and we never were able to put a show together because our show would have been too much like Ghost Hunters at that point in time. But essentially, they told us, hey, we use these when we're out in the field, out in the forest, and you can't see your hand in front of your face. I'm like, what? I didn't even know those existed. He's like, yeah, you got to get one of these. And I'm like, what? And if you've watched any of our YouTube videos, you've seen, you've seen how dark it is. But I did a short, I think, in our back forest area over there, facing our back forest area, and that's probably it's probably 70, 80 yards. So it's over almost 300 feet to the forest from our back porch. And I turned the camera on, which is also a low light camera, which is amazing, by the way. It's oh my gosh, the technology, the quality is just so much higher. And then basically having the IR flashlights now, I did it with one, and I could see clearly the trees back there. And now I've done it with, I've got two more, so we've got three. I've got to figure out a rig for it. But we're going to be able to see so much further. So much further. Things that were dark before, where it's just, you see a silhouette or a shadow or something like that, they won't be able to hide. They'll be spotlighted. I mean, even when we were shining stuff, turning the camera and looking at what we're seeing, 10, 15 feet away from us before, where you couldn't make out what that was. Now, we're going to turn the tables. I am so excited about this. So, yeah, we're going to be using IR flashlights in addition to our cameras, which should just make it look just like it's almost like day out. And these things, the clarification and whatever's out there really won't be able to hide very well with this camera system we have now. So I'd like to get another one, but we just haven't been able to. If you guys want to buy us a coffee, I've talked about that in a long time. You're welcome to send a little donation over. It helps us to buy new gear and stuff. But we also have gone and got some stealth audio recorders. that only record sounds or voices. And so we're going to be trying those out in the forest as well, leaving those for 2 or 3 days. We always left trap cams at Joe's camera up at Joe's camp for days and days and days, sometimes months on end, but they don't have any sounds. So essentially, you couldn't hear what was going on. You could always visually see through pictures and or video. And so this will be a game changer. Is there something walking through? Can you actually hear the brush snapping? Were there any howls? Were there any whoops? Were there any noises that, tree knocks that we could basically associate back to Bigfoot, and stuff like that? And then we can also go through and take those noises, and we have, like I said, we have a lot of friends that are, very, very familiar with the forest, and they're very familiar with the noises from the forest. And if we can stump those people with those noises and they can't tell you exactly what that is, then maybe we've got something. So, again, technology, the upgrade in technology will help us to be able to do much better documentation of these locations that we've been to before. I'm excited to go back to Bastrop, because Bastrop is one of those places where I've had a sighting of a juvenile Bigfoot. I'm 6'2", about 300 pounds, and these things are about the same height and width, and probably about the same weight as me. Tall, skinny, lanky, not the normal Bigfoots that you would see. They're juveniles. And, we've documented them during the day and the night there. I was walking down there one night, or one afternoon. That was the last time I ever went there. This is probably a year or so ago, where it had just been raining so hard for about 3 or 4 hours, and it was just raining 2 or 3 inches per hour. And the Colorado River, which overflowed its bank, and essentially basically caused the mud and everything to be super thick. It basically put a bunch of silt and mud and stuff over the trails and stuff like that. So all the normal debris and stuff that was up there, the leaves and all that stuff, had washed out. One of the very first things I found the last time I went there was this huge tree had fallen over. It was kind of a strange situation, because it literally had fallen over onto the concrete path that was walking down. So they had closed it because of the rain, but I got there right after that, so I was able to sneak down there. And it had not only fallen across where the steps were, the concrete steps, it had fallen across where the path was too. So it was blocking the path, and light bulb went off on my head. I'm like, oh, you know what that reminds me of? When I was walking at Joe's camp, and you'd walk through an area and you turn around, there'd be no noise, but there was a log pulled across the trail, or there was a tree branch pulled across the trail, or vines, or something else. They had made a cross with 2 sticks, 2 small diameter tree trunks, and they would try and block the path. And we never touched that. I said, okay, you know what, you blocked it. So we went around. But there was clear paths where they were moving through. Game was moving through. Not only deer, but I believe Bigfoot as well. So I definitely want to go back to Bastrop. We've had an experience. I've had a sighting every time I've been there. Oh, let me get back into this last portion, because and there's a video of this. You can actually see a Bigfoot on the video, I believe. It's really quick. So essentially, as I walk down in there in this mucky mud, and it's about 1 inch thick, I'm walking through the mud and walking up the trail, and all of a sudden I found, kind of a puddle, and then there was some pretty thick mud, 2 or 3 inches thick. And I stepped in, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going any further than this. And I found these prints. I looked down, I'm like, oh my gosh. Somebody, I don't think anybody had been walking through there with bare feet, I'm pretty sure. Because the prints walked off the trail, over a bunch of brush, through a bunch of brush, and then off over to where it slopes down. Where Bastrop is, the road's up high, and then it slopes down, then levels off, and then goes over about 20-30 feet, and then drops back down to the river. So essentially, it had basically stepped in the mud by accident, I'm sure. Maybe it heard me coming and was panicking because it was still there when I got there. Literally, I'd taken 4 or 5 steps through the mud, the thick mud. It got thicker as you went into the brush, and left these prints. And I was able to document it. And as I was looking at the prints, I looked up and I just saw something move. And this thing was, again, my shape, my size, but covered with hair. And it wasn't brown, it wasn't red, it wasn't blonde, it wasn't black. It looked like it was muddy, like it had fallen in the mud. And also had a bunch of, I don't know, I guess it was moss or tree leaves or something on it. Like I'd walked through an area where it got stickers or something like that. So anyways, it was standing there and it was camo until it moved. I didn't see it. I thought it was just a tree, and then of course it moved, and I'm like, oh. And I turned the camera and I think I caught it. But again, this is during the day, which we don't really investigate Bigfoot that much during the day unless we're out scouting locations. So it basically turned and went back in behind some brush, and I couldn't follow it because the mud was just so thick. It was about a foot thick there. I'm sure it was up to about its shins in mud. And I'm like, no, not walking through that. Not worth it. But yeah, I ended up walking down a little further to try to see if I could follow it on the path, and it got a little drier, a little wetter here and there, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've had experiences down there with juveniles every time I've been in that area. So that's a cool place. You can actually camp down there. We do have a camper, so we may go down there and camp 1 or 2 nights with Amanda and the dogs. I'd like to go through and do some other types of stuff down there, or maybe some more day research as well. You can actually, when the river's low, you can actually go across the river and go up to the side, which I think is not public. And then above where the river runs, there's a lake up the road, not very far, maybe a half a mile up the road from where we do the research. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this must be a pupping ground. There's deer everywhere there, by the way. There's hundreds of deer everywhere in Bastrop. It's a terrible place to drive because the damn deer are everywhere, especially at night. There's a golf course there, and the deer are all over the golf course at night. There's hundreds of them. I mean, literally, I could basically go hide in the bush and wait and reach out and probably grab one by the neck and pull it in to a brushy area, and the deer would have no idea I'm there. So I mean, these Bigfoot they have a water source, they have a hiding place, and they have tons of food. And then if you go up, there's a camping area, an RV camping site up also. Up a little higher from the river, and there's a lake there, and that's an area I want to check out too. If you've ever been to the Bastrop campgrounds, feel free to comment down below. Did you have an experience? Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Did you find any prints? Did you find any hair samples? Did you find anything? Let me know. I'd love to hear your experiences and stuff like that. So again, feel free to comment down below. Also, tell us where you're from. I'd be interested because, like I said, we have viewers and listeners now from everywhere around the world, and it's just so fascinating to have had that happen. I feel so lucky and so humbled by all of you new listeners and viewers. Again, if you're on a YouTube channel, if you'll give us a like, a subscribe, and a follow. I do try and post podcasts every week, whether it's a guest interview or just me talking. Also, again, if you want to share your stories, your Bigfoot stories, or other paranormal stories about your paranormal activity that you've experienced, feel free to comment down below. Or if you don't feel comfortable commenting down below, my cell number is actually down there. Our Facebook page is linked down there, so you can go on there and you can message us through Facebook if you want. We've had a lot of people do that. We've had some people from England ask us to come on their podcast, and that was awesome. That's again on our Facebook page. If you want to go listen to that, it's about a 2-hour interview, which I had a lot of fun on. Some other locations I want to go investigate. I definitely want to get back to the Sam Houston National Forest. I have plans for that cemetery. We will also be going through that video from the cemetery where I was kind of breaking it down on one of the podcasts recently, and I'm like, oh, there's a Bigfoot there. And I didn't even know it was standing like right in front of me. It was literally standing there watching me walk by. I just found a print. It was a fresh print. I looked up. I had no idea it was even standing there. I got that on the GoPro. So, anyways, I'll be breaking that down. It's more of a visual thing, so it won't be part of our podcast. But if you're on a YouTube channel or a Rumble channel, you can go over there again. If you'll give us a like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up for the videos, I appreciate that. It really helps us. So, yeah, I mean, we'll be breaking it down on those two channels and stuff like that. So the Sam Houston National Forest, I've got friends that are hunters over there, and there's two locations I really want to hit where I found there's a lot of activity, or maybe they're migrating through. I don't know when we're going to go back out into the forest. I think it's going to probably be in a month or two. I just want to make sure my ankle's 100% before I go walking back out there and snap it again. And then also we'll be going back up into the Sabine National Forest. Amanda, if you're listening to the podcast, which I hope you are, or you're watching this video, for some reason I can't seem to email you. If you can do me a favor and just call me, my number's down below, or text me. I don't know what's going on between that. I don't know if you guys still own that property, Joe's old property, or what. But feel free to contact me. I'd love to continue our conversation and see if we can get out and meet you and stuff like that. So I'll be going back up there here in the next month or two. I'd love to get back out to that area at least. There's a lot of places Joe showed us up in the Sabine National Forest where we could possibly have a Bigfoot encounter. That area is very, very... There's a lot of reports. That's on the Texas-Louisiana border, and there's a lot of reports out there. Speaking of reports, if you guys want to make a report, feel free again to contact us through our socials or through my cell phone. Call, text me, whatever you want to do, or leave a comment down below, and or message me. Would love to talk to you about locations you think we should go to. We are still working on Exploring the Unknown with Matt and Amanda. We've just been taking a break because of other things in our life. Things keep changing rapidly, and we're just kind of having to put the paranormal on the back burner for a little bit here. We've been doing a lot of private investigations lately, trying to help a lot of people. There's been a lot of weird activity going on in people's homes, so that's what we've been up to. It's been a little more time-consuming than I thought it would be, and it's taken away from the opportunity for us to shoot videos at other locations. So, anyways, last location, the Fort Worth Monster. If you guys actively or have researched the Fort Worth Monster, I would love to have you come on the podcast and talk about it. When we were up there, I rolled my ankle severely. Thank God it didn't snap, it just rolled. Something unseen tried to do it to me twice. We were fine until the gentleman I was with got a little bit ahead of me, and essentially I was walking and I found a print, and then I heard a tree knock, a really loud tree knock, and then I turned and looked, and something literally grabbed my backpack and basically spun me down. Spun me, and I landed on the ground, and I had no idea what had happened. It grabbed me by my backpack and literally tried to spin me around, and that time I caught my foot just a little bit, which irritated my ankle. An old ankle injury I got when I was up at Joe's. If you haven't heard me talk about that, Joe told me, don't go out there at night. Of course, when you're looking through a little viewfinder that's 1x1 and it's pitch black, a lot of locations you go out to, it's pitch black. Excuse me for a second. Essentially, you can't see your hand in front of your face out there, and you're looking for this little viewfinder, and you step in a damn hole. And Joe's camp was, between, all the leaf fall and all the dead foliage, underneath was sand. Well, he had a lot of sandy soil, and, I'm pretty sure that's why he had all the natural springs coming up. But anyways, you step in those holes, and you lean one way or the other, it'll pull you that way. You can't get your foot out of the hole, which is what happened to me. I basically I stepped in the hole, and then my whole body shifted to the left, and I kind of went to the left. I didn't fall, thank God. I caught myself, pulled myself out, but I pretty severely sprained my ankle at that point in time. And so the second time this happened up in Fort Worth, we were walking back. He was way ahead of me, and I was trying to find my way through the forest. I was not prepared for what we were doing. I should have been carrying a lot different gear and stuff like that. My fault. But yeah, we were walking through, and when I walk through the forest, like I said, I go slow. I'm constantly looking for things, watching, looking to see if I can see anything, hear anything, find hair samples, tree structures, which we found, which that video will never see the light of day, unfortunately for you guys. But yeah, we were starting to find some. I was starting to find some evidence. I'm like trying to explain it to him, and he's so far ahead of me. He was dead set on getting to a location where he thought they were bedding down, and so essentially that's all he had on his mind. I couldn't communicate with him what I was trying to do, and he didn't understand. We were just on completely different pages. Anyways, so he was walking back, and he had already gotten back to the boat, and I'm walking back, and I kept getting grabbed by vines. I swear, when I say the forest comes alive, I really mean they really like reach out, almost like Little Shop of Horrors, and literally wrap around you as you're walking. It's the craziest thing. So essentially, I basically again stepped in a very shallow hole. The dirt was kind of sandy. We were walking on a sand berm, a little island area. Stepped on a sand berm, foot went in, and of course there was a root there. My toes went underneath it, and something literally grabbed me again by the backpack. This time I reached up with both hands. I grabbed onto one tree on the one side, one tree on the other, and the one tree on the right side was only probably 2 or 3 inch diameter trunk, and literally this thing starts yanking me to the left, almost ripped my backpack off over my head, pulling me down, and essentially I snapped that tree in half and fell over, and my foot was flat. My foot was flat on the ground, but yeah, my whole body was laying on the ground next to it. So my ankle had been severely bent. Nothing snapped, thank God, but I had the pain. I just felt I could feel it compress. And I'm like, oh no. And I had boots on. I had heavy-duty walking boots on, and it still bent me over. I think the boots were the only thing that saved me from not completely breaking my ankle. I don't know. Maybe I did break my ankle. I have no idea. I did get it looked at, but I never followed up on it. So, my bad. Anyways, so we made it back to the boat, and then my ankle just hasn't been the same. That was back in January. So, it's been, 8+ months, almost 9 months now, since that happened. And my ankle is just taking a long time to heal. But, everybody talks about cloaking Bigfoots and Bigfoots going through portals and all that stuff. And I'm not going to say that isn't true. I've never experienced it. And I know for a fact, because I've seen what looks like these invisible figures, that you don't see them until they freaking move. And they're not Bigfoot shaped or size. They're like our size. It's almost like they're a human. Maybe they're some kind of soldier or something that's out in the woods. I don't know. Maybe it's a ghost. Maybe it's some kind of alien. I have no idea what it is. But literally, they look like they basically can blend. I mean, they look like they're a mirror. Just imagine a flat mirror like Predator without all the extra mirrors on top. Just a flat mirror. And you don't see them until they move. They're just clear, almost like you can almost see through them. They bend the light around them. And then they move, and you're like, what the hell was that? And these are not Bigfoots. From what I've seen, they're not Bigfoots. But yet, they're unseen. They don't make any noise. They're unseen. I mean, I don't know if you guys have experienced this either. But if you have, I'd love to talk to you about it. Either in private or, I'd love to hear more about it on the podcast. Let me know what have you experienced out in the forest, or whatever. And if there's locations that you think we should be checking out, message me. Leave a comment down below. I do read every single comment. I do try and give everybody some feedback of my own, always positive and stuff like that. And maybe you can come on and be a guest, or maybe you could just, we can just talk about it, and maybe we can meet up with you at your location. We were doing that with a few people, and then all of a sudden everything just, like I said, stopped. We've had quite a bit of stuff going on. So, anyways, but yeah, again, guys, if you'll do me a favor, if you're still listening at this point or watching, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell us where you're listening from, because I would love to hear where people are watching us from and stuff like that. So, all right, guys, this is getting a little long. I appreciate your time, and we will catch you on the next one.